as someone who has listened to K-pop music for a very long time, but only just recently transitioned from a casual fan into the stan culture, I have to say the understanding of what K-pop is couldn't be more starkly contrasted between the two. Ask a casual fan what K-pop is, and they'll tell you. It's Korean pop music, aka pop music sang in Korean. Ask a stan what K-pop is, and they'll reel off to you something about singing and dancing, a training system, a Korean company, and the blood, sweat, and tears of their faves. And whilst neither of those definitions are wrong, in my opinion, one is certainly more right than the other. The problems I have with the second definition is not only does it have far too many requirements for what is just a music genre, it excludes so many talented K-pop artists. Not being under a K-pop company doesn't make you less of a K-pop artist. Not singing and dancing doesn't make you less of a K-pop artist. And not going through an intense borderline slave-like training system doesn't make you less of a K-pop artist. If you sing pop music in Korean, you're a K-pop artist. All those other requirements are just facets of what is an extremely diverse genre. Imagine telling a Korean pop musician they aren't K-pop because they didn't sell their soul in a 7-year contract at 14 and endure years of intense training just so they can spend the rest of their career in debt and perform on music shows for free. Sounds dumb, right? This is probably the part where someone says that. Both things can be true at once, but personally, I hate flimsy definitions. Saying K-pop music is music sang in Korean shouldn't be a controversial take. It's a fact. Don't worry. I'm not one of those fascists that go around saying hashtag keep K-pop Korean everywhere. I mean, I literally stan a group with no Korean members. I just like consistency, and I, as I'm sure others are, I am tired of the constant debates over something so arbitrary. The definition is so flimsy that up until recently, a Japanese group who sang in English was considered a K-pop group, and a group that actually made K-pop music was considered a pop group because they had non-Korean members. This isn't XG shade, by the way, as I'm pretty sure not only they, but their fans have said since the beginning. They aren't a K-pop group, but K-pop fans can't seem to comprehend how a group made up of East Asian people could be anything but a K-pop group wall. And they made such a big deal out of it that their company had to go out of their way to call them X-pop and get you guys off their backs. But personally, I think X-pop and global K-pop, global pop or whatever else you want to call it, is all a fad. It's really just all an attempt by companies to try and appear as if they are doing something new or exceptional, especially for companies like JYP that make sure that every interviewer mentions at least once that Beecha is the first global K-pop group allegedly.
To talk to you because you are the first ever global girl group in the music industry.
Excited because if I can understand this correctly, you're the first global girl group.
Much to the anger of fans of XG, Black Swan, Z-pop, BTS, now United, and even the fans of groups like Cheetah Girls, Destiny's Child, etc. At this point, you're probably wondering how on earth it could have angered this many people when all the groups mentioned have nothing in common, not even genre, and it all comes back to the same issue. Flimsy definitions. When Black Swan debuted in 2020, I highly doubt their CEO knew. When he said, I wanted to create a global K-pop group with members across the world, that the entire concept of what a global K-pop group is would be a source of such heated debate. The reason I find the global K-pop genre so ridiculous is cause none of the groups who exist within it are doing something so inexplicably different that it required its own genre. Contrary to what K-pop fans might tell you, musicians have been singing and dancing at the same time for decades. That is not unique to K-pop. The training system also didn't originate from K-pop, or J-pop for that matter, as companies like SM Town quite literally took inspiration from companies like Motown Records. I mean, their name is literally inspired by them. The only real difference that sets K-pop apart from most genres is that you can be an amazing dancer with no vocal skill and still become a musician, and the parasocial relationships, group-related merch, and other amenities are a true love poem to capitalism. Here, Bert explains it a lot better than I could.
Welcome back to K-Pop Stans Get a Grip, where I, a K-Pop stan over a decade, help other K-Pop stans get a grip on reality. Today we're going to be talking about the idol system in general and people's misconceptions about its origins. When people think about K-pop idols, sometimes they jump to J-pop idols too, because they do this thing where Asians are all alike. And they kind of associate those systems with each other, when in reality, they're so different. The difference was painfully obvious in the show Produce 48, which took idols from the Japanese system, the AKB groups, and had them compete with Korean trainees. The Japanese idols were struggling because the Japanese system encourages you to grow with the idols. They're not coming out of the company womb perfect and up to par with all these skills, jumping tricks, etc. Whereas in the Korean system, they trained them really rigorously so that they debut seemingly perfect. I'd argue that the most that the K-pop system has taken from the Japanese system is the parasocial aspect. But that training system, the rigorous preparation for these trainees to get into the main stage, where could that come from? Where? And some of y'all already know the answer. It's the Black community. The Black community in the form of Motown Records, which was founded in 1959, way before K-pop was even a thing. Motown sounds like something that we K-pop stans know. Wonder where they got that from. Motown was a label that was home to legends like the Jackson 5 and the Supremes. If you don't know the Supremes, you probably know Diana Ross. She came from the Supremes. Now, the way that Motown recruited artists was that they would get artists who typically were lower income Black Americans. They didn't know or weren't familiar with the music scene, entertainment scene, and how that could be kind of uppity and very different from those who have lived a lower income background. So to get these artists ready for the limelight, low income people, right? They're not familiar with business practices, with show business itself, that whole industry. Motown didn't just sprinkle in like a little bit of training. No, they had a whole training system developed so that these low income artists could then be marketed well to American audiences. Remember, at the time, this was in that civil rights era, okay? They wanted to make these Black artists palatable and marketable. All the ingredients that made Motown and its artists successful came together to form the perfect recipe and blueprint for other businesses, namely in the music industry, to adopt. South Korea, with a growing economy at the time, wonder where they got the recipe from. Isn't history amazing?
I recommend following him. He has a lot of interesting videos specifically regarding K-pop and K-pop stan culture. Having members from around the world is not unique to them either, as such groups exist literally everywhere, and then that leaves the remaining other definitions. I see stans including in their arguments that the global refers to being marketed on a global scale, or singing in English. I could go into why I feel equating singing in English to having a global appeal feels Western-centric, but instead, I will say, global marketing is not at all a new concept, considering the fact that groups like BTS were able to achieve global success while singing in Korean, as well as 100 other pop groups achieving global success. The entire debate just lacks solid foundations. It's honestly just companies trying their very hardest to ride the globalization of K-culture and the Hallyu wave. I don't think I've seen any other industry that so openly encourages exploitation and consumerism as K-pop. They convince you it's all based on meritocracy through this elusive training system and turn their borderline abuse of trainees and idols into this great success story that ends with brand deals, fans, and fame, ignoring the fact that companies always stand to gain the most, whilst the majority of trainees and idols get a less than satisfactory payout. And this isn't me trying to sound like a hypocrite with a superiority complex, but so many fans refuse to look at the industry with a critical eye and genuinely believe the heavily cultivated content and personalities of idols they see every day are actually real and not just companies trying their very hardest to feed into their obsessive instincts. Large K-pop companies have succeeded so well in cultivating fan culture that they have their own fans. Company stems support not even just music groups, but entire corporations. And that's honestly insane to me. Anyways, in conclusion, I honestly think these debates are pointless. Global groups are just another of the 100 other corporate schemes by companies to convince you that they're innovative. And whilst we can still acknowledge the global origins or influences of certain groups, There's no point trying to pretend that revolution is in the music industry. Let's all just listen to music in peace. If it's sang in English, it's pop music. If it's sang in Korean, it's K-pop music. Life is so much more fun when we don't overcomplicate things